the Indian border security forces, they can't do this work, and they were claiming a lot of things. That's what we are getting it from the sources. But after that, there was a strong retaliation from the Indian side. Indian villages also, they were with the BSF, while there were some protests from the other side. There was a little bit of tension there. Now things are okay, but definitely the BSF has beefed up the security there and alert also.
Thank you for that update, Kamalika. With that, it's a wrap of this edition of The Right Stand. Brass Tacks with Zaka right now.
Green Lamp Laminates presents CNN News 18 Primetime Studio.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks with me, Zaka Jacob. We're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio presented by Green Lamp Laminates. The dates for the Delhi polls have been declared. Delhi will vote for its 70 assembly constituencies on the 5th of February, Wednesday, and counting will be on the 8th of February, Saturday. The last time, in 2020, 5 years ago, the Aam Aadmi Party swept Delhi. It had 62 out of 70 MLAs. The previous time, it was an even bigger sweep in 2015. AAP had 67 out of 70. It has been an AAP dominance, no doubt about it, in the last two election cycles. But over the last 5 years, a lot of water has flown down the Yamuna since the last election. Mr. Kejriwal and some of his closest associates, including Mr. Sisodia, a lot of them are accused in the Liquorgate scam. They had to spend jail time as part of the probe. Nothing has been proven yet. The trial has not begun. They're out on bail. And in fact, Mr. Kejriwal has made this election, the 2024 election in Delhi, as a referendum on his rule. He has made a vow that he is not going to occupy the Chief Minister's chair until he gets a renewed mandate from the people of Delhi. On the other hand, the BJP, the Congress, both of these parties were routed 5 years ago and 10 years ago. Can they make a difference this time around? There are problems within the state units of both the BJP and the Congress. They were no match for the Aam Aadmi Party, either in 15 or in 20. Can they hope for a better performance in 2024? Ultimately, it's going to boil down to a couple of factors. One, is corruption an issue? And is corruption going to hurt the Aam Aadmi Party? Two, and let's be very clear about this, if you wanted any more evidence of how Revdis or SOPs work, and all parties are complicit in this. BJP is complicit in this. Congress is complicit in this. Aam Aadmi Party certainly is. About giving Revdis or freebies to voters. AAP has already said they will give 2,100 rupees to women. The Congress has said that they are going to up that to 2,500 to women. The BJP is also expected to launch a similar scheme given how successful Ladki Bayan was in Maharashtra. So the question is, it boils down to these two poles, the corruption perception battle and who will the poor vote for? Who will ultimately win Delhi ka dangal?
पाँच फरवरी को दिल्ली के लोग चुनेंगे कि दिल्ली के बच्चों के लिए अच्छी शिक्षा कैसे बने, अच्छे स्कूल कैसे बने, दिल्ली के लोगों के लिए अच्छे स्वास्थ्य की सुविधाएं कैसे बने।
मेरे क्षेत्र के लोगों को लेके जाऊंगा जिन्होंने 3 बार अरविंद केजरीवाल को जिताया है, और उनका राइट बनता है कि वो कैसा उन्होंने महल बनाया उनके टैक्स के पैसे से, उनको देखने का तो उनका हमारे दिल्ली वासियों को राइट बनता है।
कि दिल्ली की नब्ज हम जानते हैं। दिल्ली में अब दिल्ली वाले भी त्रस्त हैं कि इस तरह के नेतृत्व नहीं चाहिए, इस तरह की सरकार नहीं चाहिए जो पिछले 10 साल से सिर्फ और सिर्फ ब्लेम गेम करते हैं।
जो भी क्लेम्स एंड ऑब्जेक्शंस आते हैं वो हाथ की हाथ हर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के साथ में शेयर किए जाते हैं, वेबसाइट पे ड्राफ्ट डाला जाता है, पोलिंग स्टेशन के रेशनलाइजेशन में कंसल्ट किया जाता है। कोई डिलीशन हो ही नहीं सकता जब तक उसके पीछे फॉर्म 7 ना हो।
Okay, so before we open this up to our panelists, I want to bring you up to speed on the magic wall with a couple of X factors. Remember, the dominance of the Aam Aadmi Party in the last two election cycles, in 2015 and in 2020, has been built on a couple of vote banks, as it were. One, of course, is the poor, large sections of what is called in Delhi as the JJ cluster or the Juggi Jopadi vote has gone en masse to the Aam Aadmi Party. Let's take a look at how that has played out for the AAP in the 2020 Vidhan Sabha election. This is what it did. 62 out of 70 MLAs were won by the Aam Aadmi Party in the Juggi Jopadi slum cluster votes, where the BJP has been really trying to make inroads with regularization of slums, building pakka homes for certain people. A lot of them happen to be, a lot of those constituencies are on the eastern part of Delhi. So you have places like Simapuri, you have places like Shahadra, where again there's a lot of this poorer voters. There's Timmarpur, there is, of course, Chandni Chowk right in the heart of Old Delhi. And even in some of the more posh parts of Delhi, places like Jangpura, from where Mr. Sisodia is contesting, he's changed his constituency. There is a substantial number of what is called JJ cluster voters. In the neighboring constituency of Kalkaji, from where the current Chief Minister Atishi is fighting again, significant portions of JJ cluster voters. 18 seats out of 70 where the JJ cluster vote is significant. All of it was won by the Aam Aadmi Party in 2020. Look at the vote share difference. There's almost a 20% vote share difference between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party. This used to be a Congress vote bank, by the way. The poorer sections of society used to be a Congress vote bank. Congress was reduced to just 5% vote share in this JJ cluster, as it were, here in Delhi. Then, of course, many years ago, in the western part of Delhi, in the western part of the city, the Punjabi refugees who came, many of whom came after partition, that used to be a BJP-dominant area. The Punjabi refugees and, of course, the trader class who are in the western part of Delhi. I just want to bring you that statistic again. This used to be a BJP-dominant constituency. There, too, the Aam Aadmi Party has made substantial inroads. If you look at all the way from Karol Bagh in the central part of Delhi, if you go further west to Patel Nagar, to Rajinder Nagar, Moti Nagar, Rajouri Garden, all of these seats, Hari Nagar, all of these seats where there are substantial Punjabi voters, voters who have come here 50, 60, 75 years ago when partition happened, settled in these refugee colonies, and then, of course, went on to become the trader class, millionaires, and so on. That which used to be the middle class vote, which used to be a BJP vote, back in the 90s and the 2000s, even when Sheila Dikshit was ruling in Delhi, this part of Delhi, this western part of Delhi was solidly with the BJP. They seem to have lost that in the last two election cycles. It is basically the Aam Aadmi Party that has won influence in the western part of Delhi. So basically, if either BJP or Congress is hoping to unseat the Aam Aadmi Party, they have to win these two substantial voting blocks. One, which is the slum voters, the poorer voters, who are, of course, you could say that it is for these voters that the so-called Revadis and the 2100 for women, etc., is being targeted. So yes, that is an important talking point. That is an important poll determinant. And then, of course, you have the middle-class voters, particularly the ones in West Delhi, for whom the BJP is hoping this time around corruption will be an issue. And, of course, the Aam Aadmi Party was born out of a corruption movement, an India Against Corruption movement. So they are hoping that all of these stories, Liquor Gate, Sheesh Mahal, etc., will dent the anti-corruption crusader image that Mr. Kejriwal has had. Which of these two narratives will find resonance with the people of Delhi? We'll know on the 5th of February. Let me now open this up to our guests. R.P. Singh, National Spokesperson of the BJP, is joining us. Dr. Shama Mohammed, National Spokesperson of the Congress Party. Piyush Joshi, Political Analyst. Smita Prakash, Editor of ANI, is also joining us. Let me start with Mr. Singh. R.P. Singh Saab, I just explained on the magic wall, both in East Delhi, which is on the Jamna Par side, as well as on West Delhi, from where you come from, there seems to be a problem for the BJP. The Aam Aadmi Party has made substantial inroads, both in the slum clusters, in the poorer voters, and also in the middle class voters. Why do you believe that in 2025 they will vote for you in a way that they did not in 2020 or in 2015?
Well, gone are the times when people of Delhi got swayed by the so-called false promises of Mr. Kejriwal, or the so-called that time magic wand he showed that time. But that's not going to happen now. Fact is that Delhiites could see through two things. One is the corruption, and second is the whatever promises were made, none has been fulfilled. The corruption part, we all know the liquor scam, the sheesh mail. I mean, I can get into details of that, but that is very well known. But as per the promises made, is the pollution there or in Delhi or not? Is air clean? No. Is water clean and healthy? No. Are schools good? No. I'll just elaborate that because this is important. There's 1.5 lakh children who are dropped out after 9th and 11th every year to improve the result of 10th and 12th. And they have accepted this one of the ads. I was just trying to find out that ad. Probably, if I can, and I'll show you that ad also.
But Singh Saab, Aam Aadmi Party claims that they are the model of delivery. They are the model of governance. Mohalla clinic ho, sarkari school ho. They are saying they have delivered. That's why people of Delhi are voting for them.
Yeah. Mohalla clinic 65,000 tests नकली हुए पिछले साल और जो जिस पे corruption anti corruption bureau already जांच कर रहा है. They are already investigating those 65,000 tests, which never happened, and money was siphoned off. And 3 children died because of wrong medicine prescribed in the Mohalla clinic. 6 were hospitalized. Coming to schools, I was telling you about the schools. 1.5 lakh children are dropped out every year, and then their future is in dark because they want to improve the result of 10th and 12th. So this is the state of school, Mohalla clinic, air, water. Oh, coming to the electricity, because that's the key thing. On electricity part also, that they have been charging, they have been charging 45% levy taxes on the basic bill. And then it's because of our hard work that levy has come down by some 20%, and we are assuring that we'll ensure that levy is not there when we come to the power.
Okay.
And then
so let me go to Dr. Shama Mohammed. Dr. Shama Mohammed, this is a member of the India Alliance. You had an alliance just 6 months ago when the Lok Sabha election happened. Of course, the BJP still swept 7-0. Point is, there is no alliance now. There was no alliance in Haryana. There is no alliance now in Delhi. Please speak to the voters of Delhi and tell us, how is it that within 6 months, you've gone from being alliance partners, friends, to now sworn enemies? Kejriwal, in fact, was asked about the Congress party the other day, and he said, who takes the Congress party seriously? These are his words, not mine.
Zaka, let me make one thing very clear. We were very, very, very clear from the beginning that when India Alliance happened, in states, the states PCC decides. That's why Punjab, there was never an alliance. In West Bengal, there is no alliance. So this is because of the state. Kerala, no alliance. So you have to understand state to state, it differs. So here in Delhi, they were very clear they do not want an alliance. And we also are very clear about it. Now, let me make you understand why. Let us understand that.
Can I ask you one clarification? The decision not to have an alliance in Delhi was taken by AAP or taken by you? Because my understanding is AAP took that call.
No, I'm sorry to say that. It is our people who wanted no alliance, because we were very clear from the beginning. I know the PCC here, they did not want an alliance. They wanted to fight it on their own. Now, let's understand AAP. Let's understand Arvind Kejriwal. Now, Arvind Kejriwal is so full of himself that when he was put behind bars, he refused to resign. And I'm going to talk today as a person living in Delhi. In Jharkhand, the same thing happened, and Hemant Soren resigned because he thought about the people of Jharkhand. They came first. For Arvind Kejriwal, it was me, myself, and I. And the people of Delhi went through hell those months when the rains happened. I myself suffered where the rain in South Delhi, I couldn't get out of my car. I could have been electrocuted because the man refused to resign and give the baton to somebody else in his own party. And let's understand, garbage is always strewn all over. In South Delhi, if you come opposite the Gagi College, there's a garbage area. Every time I go for a walk, there's garbage all over. For the last 1 week, the garbage has been cleaned because elections are close by. Water bill. higher than 1,500 rupees. When I used to live in Pune, much less, below 1,000 rupees. Electricity bill, very high. So I don't know what is he talking about. And infrastructure has completely collapsed. There are no good roads in Delhi.
Okay.
And let's understand very important thing. When the Congress party was in power for 15 years, we also had a lieutenant governor. There was no tutu meme. The Delhi people are fed up of the tutu meme between the Bharatiya Janata Party and AAP. And also very important thing,
Okay.
when she
You know,
fix it,
I also want to.
I just want to tell one last
while I
point.
said at the top, I believe the two dominant issues, the two dominant narratives, and frankly, this election is going to be decided between these two issues: corruption on the one hand, and whether that is denting the Aam Aadmi Party. On the other hand, of course, the freebies and the rabies to the poor. So ultimately, this election is going to be decided by these two issues. Before I go to Smita, I want to show another fascinating thing on the magic wall, which to my mind, they say the Indian voter is very, very smart. And Delhi voters are extremely smart, and they're showing that election after election. For the last 10 years, though Aam Aadmi Party has had a complete dominance, in 2020, 62 out of 70, in 2015, 67 out of 70. But if you look at the Lok Sabha elections, and we've got a couple of the Lok Sabha elections, of course, BJP has swept 7-0 all last three elections. The same voters, what is fascinating to me is the same voters, look at the vote share. BJP in the 2019 Lok Sabha election had 56% vote share. The Aam Aadmi Party had mere 18% vote share. So there is a good 25 to 30% voters, the same voters. It's not like new voters are voting in the Vidhan Sabha and different voters are voting in the Lok Sabha. The same voters. There is anywhere between a quarter to a third of the voters who are happy to vote for the BJP in Lok Sabha election and then happy to vote for the Aam Aadmi Party in the Vidhan Sabha election. So 2019, this is what happened. 2014 Lok Sabha. Again, very similar situation. 46% of the vote share went to BJP and 33% went to the Aam Aadmi Party. So clearly something is happening in Delhi where the same set of voters who are happy to vote for BJP in Lok Sabha are happy to vote for Aam Aadmi Party in the Vidhan Sabha. So Smita Prakash, explain that. Is that the Delhi voter being mature and deciding, okay, we like split government, even though these two parties can't see eye to eye, they're always bickering, LG versus Chief Minister, went to court, still not resolved. What explains this dichotomy? Because to me, this is fascinating. It's the same set of voters voting differently within 6 months, by the way, that too.
Interesting, no, Zaka, but I don't think this is unique to Delhi. It's there in many other places also. I mean, Orissa, just top of my head, I can think of Orissa doing the same thing, voting for Naveen Patnaik on one side and Modi from the other side. No, it's something that happens. But yes, Delhi has done that. If I was to just say, when we were talking about the JJ cluster, which you pointed out on the Magic Wall and the East Delhi, for them, a vote bank which was absolutely decided for several elections. Now it is a fight for survival, even in those areas. There's an anti-incumbency whether the Aam Aadmi Party agrees to it or not. So they have one side, they have anti-incumbency, and on the other side, for the first time in 10 years, they're having two adversaries that they're fighting. The Aam Aadmi Party got their 70 candidates announced much before the Congress and the BJP. But what I find interesting in this election is the Congress showing the kind of vigor that it hasn't shown in the past decade. And that's why the Aam Aadmi Party today has two adversaries. The BJP, of course, it's giving the impression of being in a dominant position, even if they are shaky, because, that's the way the BJP is. They are actually relishing this fight against Arvind Kejriwal. They're not deterred by the Aam Aadmi Party's slogan of Fir Layenge Kejriwal, not even the Congress.
No, but Smita, on what basis are you saying that this is going to be a much more competitive election? I look at the BJP and I look at the Congress in Delhi. I don't even see who their faces are. Who is the face who is going to take on Arvind Kejriwal? Frankly, I don't even know the names of who the state presidents are.
Yeah. So the BJP is giving the impression, is what I said. The BJP had put up CM candidates and they got a bloodied nose in the earlier elections.
Yep.
So somebody has decided that, okay, this time we're not going to do it like we didn't do in Madhya Pradesh, like we didn't do in other states. we are not going to put a face to the election. It seems to have worked for them in many states. They're trying that in Delhi. As far as the Congress is concerned, it's kind of clear that it's going to be Sandeep Dikshit who's going to be their face, because it's become like a mooch ki ladai for him. It's a very personal battle. He's been single-handedly speaking out against the Aam Aadmi Party for a long time, even though they were in alliance and it was muted, by right now Shama is going hammer and tongs against Aam Aadmi Party. But that's only in this monsoon that she has faced this crisis of garbage and rains and things like that. But the Delhiites have been facing this for a long time. It's not now that garbage hasn't been lifted, that the traffic has been terrible, that the pollution, I don't know how many shows you must have done. If you find an average, I'm sure that you must have done at least 150 shows in the past 5 years on pollution.
I don't want to put my guests in a spot of bother, but frankly, if the Congress were to do well, I don't know who in the Congress will take credit. Will Ajay Bakan take credit? Will Sandeep Dikshit take credit? I don't know.
On what basis? Because, this is a team, the Delhi unit of the Congress really, they were put in charge of fighting elections in other places and they lost in those states. The same people that you're mentioning, I don't want to take the names, but the same Delhi unit was fighting, was the brain behind Rajasthan. And what did they do there? They delivered a dud out there. And they've been made in charge of Delhi election now. But I must point out that it is Sandeep Dikshit who continued single-handedly leading the charge despite her. And now you're 3 weeks away from the elections. Have you seen anybody from the Gandhi family campaign in the same way that Modi has come out and campaigned for the BJP?
Okay, Shama, one quick response before I go to Piyush Joshi. I think Pallavi Ghosh was making that point earlier in the program, earlier on in the day when we had the dates announcement coverage, that yesterday the first of your guarantees was announced and none of your senior leaders were there. Rahul Gandhi was not there, Ms. Priyanka Gandhi was not there, even Mr. Kharge was not there. It was left to DK Shiv Kumar. I don't know what his relevance or resonance is to a Delhi voter to be the face to inaugurate the first guarantee.
I'll tell you that. See, first and foremost to Smita ji, that it is the Congress party who's going to take the victory. It is not individuals. It's the Congress party fighting as one unit out here. Number two, why was DK Shiv Kumar there? Because the same guarantee was given there, and we want to show that, the guarantee has been, when we talk about a guarantee, we do it. Unlike Aam Aadmi Party, they've spoken about 1,000 rupees in Punjab for the last 3 years. None of the women have got it. So that's why DK Shiv Kumar. And we didn't want anybody else at this point because the Deputy Chief Minister was there. Rahul Gandhi will be campaigning in next week. Priyanka Gandhi will be campaigning next week. Mr. Kharge, the President, will be campaigning next week. We are going as one strong unit to take on Arvind Kejriwal, who, when we were in power in Punjab, the pollution used to, farm fires coming from Punjab. Now when he's in power there are no farm fires coming from Punjab. It is Haryana, it is UP, it is other states.
Okay.
So, you have to prove.
Let me go to Piyush Joshi. The difference in this election, I feel, and I'm one to put it out there. Corruption is a great thing to talk about in television studios, newspaper headlines. Ultimately, does the Indian voter vote on the issue of corruption? I'm not convinced. I've not seen, even despite what we saw in India against corruption and the movement, the birth of the Aam Aadmi Party from the IAC movement and so on and so forth. But one thing I think is distinctly different, Mr. Joshi, is the halo around Mr. Kejriwal. The image of Mr. Kejriwal 10 years ago when he said, I have a Reynolds ballpoint pen, I'm a muffler man, I drive a Wagoner, I don't want the spoils of office. To today, all of this Sheesh Mahal stuff, the liquor gate stuff, that halo is gone. People are looking at it and saying, you started off by saying you're an anti-corruption crusader, ab to kya hua? You're on mute. Mr. Joshi, you're on mute.
Similar points have been raised, Zaka, in past many elections, including the MCD elections, including the 2020 elections. Barring 2015, which was, the first full government of Aam Aadmi Party, these points have been raised in all the elections. The people of Delhi actually...
No, the issue of corruption you're saying has been raised? The issue of corruption against Mr. Kejriwal?
Your question that the halo of Kejriwal is gone, that is what you...
No, because of the issue of corruption.
Right? Because of the issue of corruption.
That was not raised 5 years ago.
No, that was raised in 2020 as well. That now he's riding in an Innova. He has gone for a CM's office and CM's camp's office and CM's bungalow and
Okay.
all that, and he is not living in in his own humble abode of Kaushambi. So all those issues were raised. People vote on few things. And when it comes to the state of Delhi, whether the life of an average Delhiite is easier because Aam Aadmi Party is in government, or whether the life of an average Delhiite is worse because Aam Aadmi Party and Kejriwal is in governance. Whether the schools have actually improved or whether the schools have not improved, whether the healthcare services have improved or whether they have not improved. So this is what the people of Delhi are going to vote upon, whether new pipelines are there or not, whether they are getting 700 odd liters water, without any charges or not, whether they are getting 150 to 200 units of electricity or not. These are the core
No, but,
issues.
but tell
only
me,
the voter of
Mr.
Delhi is going
Joshi,
to
this is
vote.
also the first election after COVID in Delhi, and we saw what happened in COVID. There was a serious crisis in Delhi. I know neighbors, who had to run from pillar to post to get oxygen cylinders, and there was bickering between AAP and BJP over who is responsible for getting oxygen cylinders.
Yeah, that
How
is
can
because
how can you contrast that with what you call the health model of Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi?
Zaka, I have been a COVID physician. I am a practicing physician. I live in the state of Madhya Pradesh. The COVID, particularly the second wave of COVID in 2021, was actually far worse than the first wave, and the scenes were likewise everywhere. You go anywhere across the country, our resources have crumbled. Have we learned anything from that? As far as the Delhi government is concerned, they are learning a little bit. They are trying to increase a few beds. They are trying to increase 15,000 odd beds in various hospitals. But whether we have learned our lessons elsewhere or not, that still remains to be answered. So whether the issue of Sheesh Mahal will dent the image of Kejriwal or not, maybe, may not be. But whether the life of an average Delhiite is easier because of
So
Kejriwal
let
or
me
worse
ask
because
RP
of
Singh,
Kejriwal, or
corruption
tougher
does
because
not
of
matter.
Kejriwal will
These things
decide.
have been talked about in the
It
past.
matters.
Ultimately,
It matters.
okay. Ultimately,
But you have to prove
no,
it.
one
But
second.
you have
Yeah,
to prove it.
fair enough. On Liquorgate, I am with Mr. Joshi on this. Nothing has been proven in a court of law. Supreme Court did not have particularly nice things to say about ED and its prosecution in this case so far. And I certainly don't think, at least in the court of public perception, Mr. Kejriwal has been hanged up for the Liquorgate. Sheesh Mahal is a different thing. I don't want to get into that. But the point is, I don't think voters are voting on that. Voters are voting on, as Mr. Joshi said, has my life become better? Are my kids getting better education? Is my health care better? Am I getting 1,000 rupees per month in my bank account? Ultimately, bread and butter issues matter. And Mr. Joshi's claim, the Aam Aadmi Party's claim is that on that they have delivered.
Well, Zaka, let's start with the 1,000 rupees which you mentioned, the last point. Has anyone received any penny till date? I mean, it was decided in March. December, they could have paid 9,000 rupees by December. Not a penny. And then they have said, oh, we'll improve. As if they have paid 1,000. Now they are going to improve from 1,000 to 2,100 rupees. People are not so fool in Delhi. I mean, you can't treat people like that, and you can't take people for right. One. Secondly, as I said, is air quality better? Is Wi-Fi free? I mean, remember that Wi-Fi free was a big carrot which was given. And also, I told you about water. I give a challenge. Let Mr. Kejriwal drink water from his own constituency, his own Jaggi cluster constituency. And for a week, I'll get him treated in one of the best hospitals in Delhi, Gangaram, free of cost. But water quality is bad. The schools, as I said, are in tatters. I mean, leave aside what I said earlier. Go by Justice Manmohan, who's the Chief Justice now, his April observation about the Delhi schools. He says schools are run in 10 sheds, and then there are more than 140 children in each class. So that's the state of the affairs of schools. As per the court, I mean, as per the Chief Justice now, then Justice of Delhi, Justice Manmohan. So this is the state of affair. I mean, Mohalla Clinic, I told you, how can you forget those 3 IAS officers? The 3 IAS aspirant died because of the sewage failure in Delhi. I mean, so Delhi is collapsing. There is not a single road in Delhi which is without a khud, which is clean road or which is proper road. I mean, so what is it that they are giving?
I have to get the final comments from Shama Mohammed first, and then Smita Prakash after that. Ultimately, Shama Mohammed, there's a lot of talk, oh, Congress is doing better this time, Congress is doing better this time. I heard that when the Madhya Pradesh elections happened. I heard, of course, a superlative version of that when Haryana elections happened. Ultimately, the numbers are there on the magic wall. Congress, last election, had 4% vote share, 0 MLAs. Election before that, it had 8% vote share, 0 MLAs. And frankly, I don't see why that would change dramatically in this election.
Zaka, mark my words, it's going to change dramatically because people are fed up of Arvind Kejriwal. Let's understand one thing. You said Sheesh Mahal is not important. Sheesh Mahal is important.
No, I didn't say it's not important. I said it's different from the liquor gate issue. I didn't say it's not important.
Yeah. So he said he's an Aam Aadmi and he abused Sheila Dixit for 12 ACs in her house, which is a government house. He's rebuilt his house and he made a Sheesh Mahal. So he cannot keep attacking. He abused her because of scams. Which scam? I don't know where she's been convicted. I mean, he went to jail. She did not. He's on bail right now. So he has to take every word. I remember Nirbhaya. He abused her because of the police issues. What did he do in Delhi riots? He says the police mere paas nahi hai. Police mere. He went in front of Mahatma Gandhi's statue and was standing there as the chief minister of Delhi. Did he stop the riots? Did he even try? No. He was one-sided in the Delhi riots. Everybody knows where he stands. So he's a chameleon. See, let's understand one thing. Congress is an ideology. Other parties have an ideology. What is this man's ideology? Nothing.
Okay.
He's a chameleon.
Final words, Mr. Prakash. I have to wrap up. I also think, and people can undervalue this, you know, Mr. Kejriwal has made this election into a referendum. Whether you like him, whether you don't like him, you vote for him, don't vote for him. It's a referendum on his track record and what he believes and what he has put out to the people of Delhi, his wrongful incarceration in the Liquorgate scam. Now, the point is, Smita, that, you know, on the other side, who is the referendum on? Well, what is the other side even offering as a counter to this referendum?
You know, it's interesting, Zaka, that you're ending the debate on the word referendum because he brought it ad nauseum several times when he fought the first election till he had to be told that there is no referendum in the Indian constitution. So stop talking about referendum. This is something that he piped down on. But, you know, certain things I want to point out. One is about the women voter. We haven't talked about that. Core voter base of Aam Aadmi Party. Will they go with they had complete faith in Kejriwal till now. Will they stick with him despite the Sheesh Mahal, despite the whole thing about air and water pollution, the terrible state of roads, water shortage, sewage affairs, housing, healthcare, all these issues, will they still stay with him? That's one thing. Or will they shift? And if they shift, will they shift to the BJP? Because one has seen that in the Maharashtra election and in the Haryana election. The second one, which I want to talk about, is the middle class. The middle class is the most fickle voter in Delhi, never stood by anybody. The BJP seems to be aiming towards the middle class this time because neither the Congress nor the Aam Aadmi Party are looking at the middle class voter. The middle class voter used to be the BJP voter in Delhi, but that voter has forgotten. Who remembers Sahib Singh Verma, Madan Lal Khurana, Sushma Swaraj? 27 years is a long time for the middle class voters. So they have forgotten that. Will they return to the BJP? After having abandoned them for 27 years, it will be interesting. The third thing is, just to conclude, is about Shama Mohabbat talking about Sheila Dixit. Let me tell you, remind her, I don't know whether she recalls this, but when Sheila Dixit was attacked by the Aam Aadmi Party, nobody in the Congress stood by her. They abandoned her and the lady had to fight her own battle, which she gave up after some time, something that Sandeep Dixit has not forgotten.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to all our guests. It's going to be a fascinating election. It is a small state, but a prestigious one. It's the capital of the country, after all. And like I said, over the last 2 election cycles, the Aam Aadmi Party has dominated. Whether or not that changes, we'll know on the 8th of February. Meanwhile, let's shift focus to some international stories now. The United Kingdom has long struggled with the murky history of so-called grooming gangs. These gangs which have sexually abused thousands of young girls over the years. Britain now stands shamed before the world as all of this suppressed anger is bubbling to the surface. There are calls for a public inquiry, demands for accountability, and it's being led by the world's richest man, Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and SpaceX and now the owner of X. He's going after UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer over the Pakistani grooming gangs. In response, Starmer has staunchly defended his record as the head of the Director of Public Prosecutions. He has called Musk's comments, without directly naming Musk, as lies and misinformation. Here's an explainer on that story, and then we'll go across to our guest.
Those that are spreading lies and misinformation are not interested in victims.
Elon Musk has recently launched a series of pointed attacks against British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, accusing him of being a national embarrassment. Musk has demanded Starmer's resignation. This public confrontation on the social media platform X, which is owned by Musk, has its roots in the controversial issue of grooming gangs in the UK. These child rape cases go back to a time during Starmer's tenure as the Director of Public Prosecutions of the DPP from 2008 to 2013. Musk's allegations center on his view that Starmer failed to adequately address the issue of child sexual exploitation during his time as the head of prosecution in Britain. Musk specifically accuses Starmer of allowing rape gangs, particularly those involving Pakistani British Muslim men, to operate without facing justice. Musk claims that Starmer's leadership contributed to systemic failures that enabled these gangs to exploit vulnerable girls over the years. In his various posts on X, the social media platform which has become a megaphone for Musk's voice to be heard around the world, he has called for a national public inquiry into these grooming gangs cases. He has criticized the Labour government for what he calls its alleged complicity in these crimes. Musk's rhetoric has escalated at a time when he suggested that Starmer should face charges for his complicity in what he described as the worst mass crime in British history. He's also targeted Jess Phillips, who is the safeguarding minister, accusing her of covering up for Starmer by rejecting calls for a public inquiry. The grooming gang scandal refers to a series of high-profile cases in the UK. This predominantly involved British Pakistani men who were found to be involved in systemic sexual exploitation of young girls. These cases gained significant media attention and public outrage because of the apparent failure of law enforcement and child protection agencies. Reports indicated that officials often hesitated to act because of fear of appearing to be racist, and that led to widespread criticism and calls for accountability. The issue gained significant media attention after reports emerged from towns like Rotherham and Rochdale, revealing that local authorities there had failed to act on numerous reports of child sexual abuse because of fear of being politically incorrect, and also of fears of being labelled racist. The scandal led to public outrage and calls for accountability both amongst law enforcement and in the social services. Starmer's role as the head of prosecution at that time was scrutinized, although he was the one who introduced new guidelines in 2013 aimed at improving responses to child sexual exploitation. Critics argue that more decisive action was required during his tenure. The failure to prosecute many offenders has led to ongoing debates about justice for the victims and accountability of those who were in positions of power. Musk has even gone so far as to appeal directly to the monarch, King Charles III, suggesting that the king should dissolve parliament and call for new elections. However, such an action would be unprecedented in Britain. It could lead to a constitutional crisis in the UK. There is no provision for the king to fire a prime minister unless the prime minister has lost the confidence of parliament. The monarch traditionally remains politically neutral and does not interfere with parliamentary matters, which is what Musk wants him to do. Despite Elon Musk's repeated attacks, Keir Starmer remains the undisputed leader of the Labour Party. He enjoys substantial support within his party and in Parliament. Following a landslide victory in July of 2024, Starmer's leadership has been bolstered by a massive majority in Parliament. In fact, the Labour Party under Starmer won its biggest election majority with over 400 members of Parliament in the last 25 years. The last time a Labour Prime Minister had more than 400 MPs in the British Parliament was in 1997 when Tony Blair led New Labour to end years of Conservative and, in specific, Margaret Thatcher rule. But within just a few months of that historic electoral landslide by Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, there is growing criticism from various factions of the party. The Labour Party views Musk's criticisms as politically motivated, suggesting that they stem from frustration over recent government actions against those individuals who spread rumours related to riots that happened in Southport last year. This context adds another layer to Musk's engagement with UK politics. He appears to be targeting Starmer not just for past actions, but also as part of a broader critique of how Starmer's government has been handling free speech issues. Over 30 far-right activists, including the right-wing provocateur Tommy Robinson, was arrested by the British police for fanning misinformation which led to riots in southern England last year. But why then is Musk targeting Starmer, and that too for a controversy from well over a decade ago? Starmer responded to the controversy. He did not directly refer to Musk by name, but he said it was a travesty that some British politicians, referring to opposition Conservative politicians, who he said were jumping onto this bandwagon on some conspiracy theory being floated by the far right. He lamented how the Conservatives, despite being in power for 14 years, did nothing to investigate these unsubstantiated claims. So I want to go across to Berzeen Wagmar. He's from the South Asia Institute at the School of Oriental and African Studies, one of the foremost schools in London. Thank you very much, Berzeen, for speaking with us. Just put this into perspective for our viewers. Why is Musk raking something up from more than 10 years ago in the hope that that will scratch away at the kind of majority and the mandate that Starmer's got just, 6 months ago?
Well, Zaka, I would like to commence by saying that regardless of Mr. Musk's comments on social media and the tone and tenor of what he has to say, some of which merits rectification, no doubt, the point is, this is about the British state's magisterial failure of epic proportions insofar as protecting the most vulnerable in society is concerned. And it's a failure of both parties going back to 2010. The Conservatives and Labour, now who are exchanging brickbats in Parliament, neither can afford to talk, actually. To say nothing of the Metropolitan Police Force, social workers, case workers, all of them must be implicated in how this has come to pass. The point is this: an independent inquiry into child sexual abuse report, a 180 million investigation is published finally in 2022 under Professor J. While it investigated child sexual networks by organized networks, its focus on mass rape gangs and grooming gangs was limited, and it did not hear evidence about scandals, for example, in Rotherham, Rochdale, and Oxford. You see, the report only covered 6 towns involved in such child rape investigations. Coming to the present, just as a brief pointer, but I want to get back to what we are discussing. In the first 10 months of 2024, there were 9,000 sexual offenders enumerated in Britain. All the 9,000 in question are foreign nationals. What happens in the case of these child sexual abuses, murders, and petrol bombings also of white vulnerable girls from the lowest order, from working class backgrounds, by Pakistani, Sunni, Mirpuri, Punjabi men, the sort who incorrectly tend to pass off here as Kashmiri. And we do know that in the South Asian context that Mirpuris are not Kashmiris because they don't even speak Kashmiri for a start. They are not recognized as Kashmiris by either Hindus or Muslims who are domiciled in
But Berzeen, I want to come back to the issue at hand, and the Labour Party's contention is that Mr. Musk is raising all of this. It's from 10 years ago. It's a closed chapter. You heard Starmer yesterday saying, why didn't the Conservatives do a thing about it? They were in power for 14 years. And secondly, they're saying that all of this is payback for the arrest of the 30 far-right activists, including Tommy Robinson, who the government feels was spreading misinformation which led to riots in Southport last year.
Tommy Robinson is a distraction, and I don't want to merit the dignity of this discourse with him, because there would have been no Tommy Robinson if the government had acted. And when I say acted, Zaka, it's like this. For example, take this 2010 West Midlands Police report, which said that and I quote, the predominant offender profile of Pakistani Muslim males combined with the predominant victim profile of white females has the potential to cause significant community tensions, close quote. Then, for example, Channel 4 in 2004 was about to broadcast a documentary on abuse in Bradford, and that was delayed because police forces warned that the evidence of, quote, Asian men, that is Pakistani Muslim Maypuris, targeting young white girls could inflame racial tensions. In every instance, we have an inert morally craven administration and aspects of officialdom who simply cave in for social cohesion and for supposed community empowerment and betterment. And they feel that this is the reason why we cannot inflame tensions just to keep things in check.
All right.
And
One could argue that
Susaka.
you cannot condone a crime or look the other way when a crime happens just in the name of political correctness. But thank you very much, Murzeen, for joining us. We'll see what is going to be the political fallout of this. Like I said, Starmer responded without naming Musk, but Musk is going on and on at it. Whether or not there will be a political fallout to it is something that Britain will be keenly watching. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, massive political earthquake almost in Canada. Justin Trudeau steps down as Prime Minister after 9 long years. This change of guard, the Liberal Party has 3 months to find a new leader. Will that lead to a reset in India-Canada ties? That's on the other side.
Co-powered by
Canada's Justin Trudeau said he would step down as Prime Minister in the coming months after nearly a decade in power, bowing to pressure as polls showed his party would be crushed in the next election. But what happens now? Trudeau said he would stay on both as Prime Minister and Liberal leader until the party picks a new one to take it into the next election. In Canada, unlike the process in other countries, party leaders are chosen by special leadership conventions that can take months to organize. The next federal election in Canada must take place before the end of October. Trudeau also announced on Monday he prorogued or suspended Parliament until March 24th. This means opposition parties who had planned to bring down his minority government as soon as they could will now have to wait until sometime in May. If all the opposition parties vote together on a non-confidence motion, the Liberals will be defeated and a new election called. If the Liberals are still in power by Parliament's scheduled summer break on June 20th, an election would be held as scheduled. The Liberals could also be brought down over the annual budget, most likely to come in April. When Trudeau took over the leadership in 2013, the contest lasted 5 months. A nightmare scenario for the Liberals is that the party takes so long to choose a new leader that Trudeau will still be in charge when the next election is called. That means it's likely the party will announce a shortened contest designed to get the next leader in office as soon as possible. Former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, former Governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, could run to replace Trudeau alongside a number of current cabinet ministers. Polls strongly indicate that the Liberals will lose the election, no matter who the leader is. Canada's Justin Trudeau said he would step down as Prime Minister in the coming months after nearly a decade in power, bowing to pressure as polls showed his party would be crushed in the next election. But what happens now? Trudeau said he would stay on both as Prime Minister and Liberal leader until the party picks a new one to take it into the next election. In Canada, unlike the process in other countries, party leaders are chosen by special leadership conventions that can take months to organize. The next federal election in Canada must take place before the end of October. Trudeau also announced on Monday he prorogued or suspended Parliament until March 24th. This means opposition parties who had planned to bring down his minority government as soon as they could will now have to wait until sometime in May. If all the opposition parties vote together on a non-confidence motion, the Liberals will be defeated and a new election called. If the Liberals are still in power by Parliament's scheduled summer break on June 20th, an election would be held as scheduled. The Liberals could also be brought down over the annual budget, most likely to come in April. When Trudeau took over the leadership in 2013, the contest lasted 5 months. A nightmare scenario for the Liberals is that the party takes so long to choose a new leader that Trudeau will still be in charge when the next election is called. That means it's likely the party will announce a shortened contest designed to get the next leader in office as soon as possible. Former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, former Governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, could run to replace Trudeau alongside a number of current cabinet ministers. Polls strongly indicate that the Liberals will lose the election, no matter who the leader is. Canada's Justin Trudeau said he would step down as Prime Minister in the coming months after nearly a decade in power, bowing to pressure as polls showed his party would be crushed in the next election. But what happens now? Trudeau said he would stay on both as Prime Minister and Liberal leader until the party picks a new one to take it into the next election.
Welcome back. 10 months before he had to go back to the Canadian voters for a re-election, Justin Trudeau resigned as the leader of the Liberal Party. He'll also step down as Prime Minister, but he will continue in an interim fashion until his party can find a new leader. He said that he will step down as Prime Minister after the 24th of March. He's asked for the Governor-General of Canada to prorogue Parliament until that day so that his party can find a new leader. Now, this brings to a close a decade in power while putting the country's political future at a crossroads. Trudeau's decision to resign comes at a time of very deep anxiety in Canada. There is a massive cost of housing crisis. There is spiraling grocery prices. And to top all of this, there is the huge threat of Donald Trump and his tariffs. Even before his inauguration, Donald Trump has threatened as much as 25% tariffs on all Canadian imports into the United States. So much so that Justin Trudeau, over the break that happened, the holiday break, had to go to Mar-a-Lago and proverbially kiss the ring. But that meeting didn't exactly go down well as Trump continued to troll Justin Trudeau, calling him Governor Justin and referring to Canada as the 51st state of the United States. He tweeted that last night as well, after Justin Trudeau announced that he is stepping down. Of course, Canada depends hugely on the United States. It is its single biggest export market, and US tariffs, even if it is 5% or 10%, and Trump is threatening 25% tariffs on Canada, that would be devastating for the Canadian economy, and a prorogued parliament or a new Liberal leader over the next 8 to 10 months before elections can be called in October is unlikely to be in a position to ease these fears. So the big question is, what does Justin Trudeau's resignation mean? His resignation throws open the doors for a fierce political battle on who is going to lead Canada for the next 8 to 10 months. Some of the front runners to take Trudeau's job, the top job in Canada, his close associate and someone who fell out with him just a few weeks ago, Chrystia Freeland, one of the most senior and well-regarded figures in the Liberal Party. She was Deputy Prime Minister, she was Finance Minister, has a very strong view on how to deal with Trump and his threatened tariffs. She also has a strong profile and considerable experience in government. She was virtually number two to Justin Trudeau. And the final snap between Trudeau and Freeland happened on exactly how to deal with Trump and his proposed tariffs. There's also Mark Carney. Again, very strong economic record. He's a former governor of the Bank of Canada, former governor of the Bank of England. He's widely considered to be a strong contender. He's a Harvard and Oxford graduate. Carney brings decades of expertise, particularly in economics and economic management, and that could again prove handy in how to deal with the Trump tariffs. A few Indo-Canadians as well in the reckoning, in the race for the top leadership. Anita Anand, well-respected figure within the Liberal Party, known for her work when she was National Defence Minister, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic when she oversaw procurement of masks and test kits and so on. She's of Indian origin and could possibly bridge the gap that we're seeing between the Indian and Canadian governments, which has happened over the last couple of years under Trudeau's leadership. There is Dominic LeBlanc, who is a seasoned politician with deep ties to the Liberal Party. He's been finance minister, again, integral to the Canadian government's economic policies. His experience with intergovernmental relations, he was one of the people who Trudeau took along with him to Mar-a-Lago when he met Trump a few weeks ago. Again, could be potentially the next Prime Minister. There's also Melanie Joly, again seen as one of Trudeau's close associates, a prominent woman face in Trudeau's cabinet, has been Foreign Minister, therefore has international experience, but is not considered one of the favorites. She is considered a dark horse in this race.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
Now, this development also comes in the wake of what has been two very, very tumultuous years in ties between New Delhi and Ottawa. Indo-Canadian relations have reached what is easily a historic low. First, it started with these baseless allegations that were made by Trudeau himself in person on the floor of the Canadian Parliament, where he alleged that Indian agents were involved in the killing of a Khalistani separatist, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The Indian government says those accusations, those allegations are completely baseless, and in the last almost 2 years since he made those allegations, not a shred of evidence has been given or provided to the Indian government to prove those allegations. The question then is, will a change of leadership change the dynamic between Delhi and Ottawa? Trudeau's resignation could possibly ease tensions with India. It could potentially be a moment to reset diplomatic ties. A new leader could tone down temperatures, could prioritize constructive dialogue, possibly resume trade talks, and even address New Delhi's concerns when it comes to what Delhi feels the open sanctuary that's been given to some of these K gangs. Trade between India and Canada is not a lot, but it's about $8.5 billion or so under Trudeau when we last had figures. That has come under intense strain because of the political sort of non-cooperation between Delhi and Ottawa. A new leadership could either continue to put the emphasis on trade and to reset ties and go back to the $8.5 billion trade that we did annually. Trudeau's administration also implemented massive cuts to international student permits, which affected many Indian students. In fact, more than 300,000 Indian students go to Canada every single year. That number had been sizably cut because of the permits that were restricted by Trudeau in the last few months. And now with his resignation, there is a potential for a shift as far as Indian students are concerned who are studying in Canada. Let's try and make sense of this. Sushant Sareen is Senior Fellow with the Observer Research Foundation. Sushant, so I've laid out the lay of the land, as it were, for the next 8 to 10 months that the new leader of Canada will be Prime Minister. Do you think this is a genuine moment for a reset, or do you think Trudeau has set the template so far out that his politics of scorched earth is so bad that no matter who the next Prime Minister is, will not be able to change that template, at least at a very basic level, between India and Canada?
I think that's the nature of the Canadian politics, the way Canadian politics has evolved, Zaka, that I don't think there will be any significant change in how Canada and India relate to each other, or in terms of Canada being able to address some very serious concerns that India has about Canada becoming a base for international or transnational criminal gangs and for terrorists who are using Canadian soil to create trouble in India and interfering in India's domestic politics, interfering in India in the law and order situation out here. And because given the nature of Canadian politics, if you expect somebody like an Anita Anand to be able to deliver, she has been a Trudeau groupie, and all the other contenders waiting to replace Trudeau. She has been obsequious to the Khalistani gangs. She has never ever tried to. There have been some liberal politicians in Canada who've tried to make some corrective moves to bring the relationship on an even keel. But Anita Anand is not one of those. The others you have named have been part of the problem between India and Canada, at least insofar as the Liberal Party is concerned. The Conservatives are no better. We've seen the Conservative Party leader going to gurdwaras which are famous or infamous for Khalistani propaganda, for Khalistani activity. Either these guys are completely tone deaf or they simply don't know how things are working. And then you have a Canadian governmental system with the Canadian Intelligence Agency and the RCMP, which have also been complicit in allowing these gangs to strut around unmolested.
I do want to sort of look forward beyond, the next 8 to 10 months, whoever the new Liberal Party leader is, the next Prime Minister is. As per current polls, Pierre Poilievre, the head of the Conservative Party, is leading by more than 20 percentage points. So let's say he's odds-on favorite to become the next Prime Minister post-October. Why do you think he's also politically in the same basket as Trudeau is as far as these Khalistani gangs are concerned? There are at best 30, 35 ridings where these Khalistani gangs are an influential vote bank where they can actually decide who the MP is going to be. If he's leading by 20 points, he can win even without those 35 seats.
Yeah, but that's the calculation, Zaka, you and I, middle class people make, right? That's not the calculations politicians make. Politicians want to make sure that they can expand their vote bank as much as is possible. So yes, the Khalistanis probably call the shots in about 35 ridings. But look, it's not just the number of representatives they send to parliament. Many of those guys are sitting on the left and right of party leaders. There is this guy, Tim Uppal, I believe, his name is, who sits right next to Pierre Poilievre. You have others who sit next to Justin Trudeau.
Greenlam Laminates presents CNN News 18 Primetime Studio.
We're live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio presented by Greenlam Laminates. Viewers, it is unprecedented. The Chief Election Commissioner using a press conference call to announce the schedule for an election, in this case the Delhi Assembly polls, to mount a defense of his integrity with exacting elegance and aplomb. It's not happened before. But that's exactly what Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar set about doing for 40 minutes before he even touched upon the planning and the various procedures that had been enacted to go out there and conduct the Delhi Assembly elections. Evidently stung by a series of attacks on the fair-mindedness, to put it politely, of the Election Commission launched by the India Bloc and all the parties therein,